So, what I've been figuring out over the past year and a half is how I could develop a process that allows me to harness and transmit healing energy into a canvas while I'm painting that is then experienced by the viewer or released into the space that the painting is hung in. And I feel like I've finally gotten to a point where I have a solid understanding of my process. And I'll tell you about how I got to this point. So, about a year and a half ago, I was going through a really painful, long, drawn out breakup, and I needed a way to process some of the emotions of that breakup. And I, for years, had really been wanting to get back into painting again. And I tried a couple of times and didn't push through the really uncomfortable beginning phase and stopped before I really got back into it. But then this time around, I had this deep burning urge to break through that phase. And so I basically started to force myself to experiment with paint and canvas and different things. It was really hard at first, and I really did not like the things that I was creating. Weird things were coming out onto the canvas, like dark, ugly colors that didn't look good together. And I did not think that I was going to get through that phase, but I tried to be nice to myself. I tried to just let it happen. And I realized that I was most drawn to working with color and exploring the relationships between colors and creating color fields or atmospheres. And once I gave myself permission to just paint abstractly, I started having a lot more fun and started liking the things that I was painting a lot more. And once I actually enjoyed painting and enjoyed looking at the things that I was making, I realized that I needed to go another layer deeper and I needed to create art that would have a deep meaning and would motivate me on more levels than just satisfying my creative urges. And one day I was reading and this idea came to me that all art is a portal. It can be a portal into some beautiful, otherworldly, mystical place, or it can be a portal into pain and despair and denser emotions, or it can be a portal into healing and integration and optimism and peace. And if I was going to make art, I wanted to make portals of healing. I didn't want to just recreate what I was seeing with my physical eyes. I wanted to translate energy of healing that I could harvest from the world around me onto a canvas, locking it in place where it can project that energy out into a space or into a person indefinitely. And I knew that it was something I could do. I have some background in energy healing, so I knew it was going to involve somehow like putting Reiki energy into the painting. But I didn't feel like Reiki infused paintings were really going to be enough. Like I wanted to go deeper than that. And I had no idea how I was going to do that at first. I was really in an experimental phase and was just making things expressively. And as I was going through a really painful breakup, it was very therapeutic for me to just make anything, express any emotion onto a canvas. But over time, I realized that if I cultivated the feeling that I wanted to communicate within the piece of art while I was painting it, if I really felt that happiness or that freedom, or if I really brought in those healing energies into my own body and then imagined projecting them out through my hand, through my paintbrush onto the canvas as I was painting, then that actually did achieve my goal. But I knew that if I was creating something while I was in the depths of the healing process, I couldn't really create a portal into a healed state if I wasn't in one myself. So for the past year, I've been focusing really heavily on healing myself, healing my relationship wounds, experimenting more with energy healing modalities, and doing what I need to do to get myself to an emotionally and energetically healed state so that I can produce that state in my paintings. And so that's one reason why I chose to pack up my studio and move to Southeast Asia for a few months, because I needed a big change so that I could introduce new energy into my life. And with challenges of traveling and the logistics of having my studio set up for a month at a time, there have been new problems that I need to solve and refinements that I've made to my process. I've also found different energy healers while I've traveled that have helped me along my own healing journey. And I've really been able to whittle down my process and figure out what the most important parts are. So, over the past year, I've gone from making art that I hate to making art that I like to making art that makes me feel good. And I've developed this process of projecting my intention onto the canvas while I'm painting and while the painting is drying, of channeling healing energy into my paintings using Reiki methods. And fairly recently, within the last 6 months, I've incorporated crystal grid technology into my process, where I have like 6 different crystals that I use in a specific formation that help harness energy and funnel it into my paintings while I'm painting. I also use sound healing tuning forks to clear the space before I paint. So that's kind of how my process has developed over the past year. This is what my studio setup looks like. While I've been traveling, I just get an Airbnb with enough space to put my drop cloth on the floor. I brought my natural earth paint pigments. I bought some linseed oil while I was out here and some paintbrushes and some canvas. And I paint on the floor, or sometimes I tape my paintings up on the wall and work like that. In this video, you'll see me working on 4 different paintings, and these make up the beginning of my second full series. My first series, which you can check out on my website anddailyart.com, was about the overall process of transmutation or alchemization, how energy goes from being stuck or stagnant to being opened up, dismantled, set free, to then being harmonized and integrated back into the whole. The second series is about liberation and freedom and what it feels like when a lot of the integration has been done, what layers are still left to be unearthed and processed, and what does it feel like to exist in a state of freedom and clarity. What is left to be alchemized? What new layers can you find hidden underneath everything that you've already integrated? This second series, I've made from a lot more integrated place. And I feel like that has allowed me to put a lot more grounding and uplifting energy into these paintings. I've learned that it's so important for me, at least, to have gone through really deep emotional healing before starting to make things that people will look at and digest and absorb. I feel like it's really important as an artist to create from a place of integration rather than simply expression, because art has the power to shape the emotional atmosphere around us. And I don't want to ask people to inhabit emotions that I'm still unconsciously carrying. I want my work to offer something I've genuinely lived through and transformed. If I'm asking someone to spend time with one of my paintings, I want their experience to leave them feeling more grounded, more hopeful, or more connected to themselves, not to carry emotional weight that I haven't yet worked through myself. For years, I felt so blocked creatively. And now looking back, I realized that it was because I had so much healing to do. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to spend the time and energy on that healing process over the past couple years, because now I feel like I'm at a place where I can make art that is genuinely uplifting and healthy for people to look at. And something I've thought about a lot over the past 5 years of being on this journey is the role of beauty in our lives. What does it mean for something to be beautiful? What is the point of trying to make things beautiful or see the beauty in the world? And if it's fair to focus energy on creating beautiful things while there's so much darkness still in the world. I used to think that beauty was frivolous and unnecessary and a waste of time. And the things that I wore, the effort I put into my appearance, and the things that I created. I went through this phase starting about junior year of high school and lasting around 10 years, where I was just focused on surviving and felt like it was unreasonable or a waste of time to put any of my attention on creating beautiful things. And I had a hard time finding joy and appreciating the beauty of man made things. And during this period of time, I put a lot of my attention toward appreciating the beauty of nature, going on adventures and exploring. And I found a lot of satisfaction in that. And looking back, I guess on a deep level, I was yearning for beauty, but I was so mad at myself and humans that I guess I didn't let myself appreciate any man made beauty. I felt like if it was made by people, then it wasn't as beautiful as if it was just made by nature. If it took the form of a beautiful plant or a forest or a river or a mountain. And I guess looking back, I realized that I felt this way because I was angry and hurt and sad and had buried a lot of those feelings so deep that I couldn't even notice them in myself. And so I was numb and shut down. And as I started healing and creating space in myself, something changed about what I noticed in the world and what I could appreciate. I started noticing beauty everywhere. And the more I healed, the more places I found this beauty in. And the more I wanted to add to it. And I've learned that beauty isn't a distraction from suffering. It's a celebration of being alive despite all of the pain and darkness in the world. Beauty is an expression of hope, of wonder, of joy, of our ability to choose where to focus our attention and what to contribute to the world. Something that really helped me when I was in a really stuck place during my healing journey was planting flowers. I was too depressed to put my energy into making art, so I decided to put my energy into planting flower seeds. And I had to override this belief that anything I grew had to be edible or usable. And so I let myself plant things that were just going to be nice to look at. And that was a huge step toward appreciating beauty for the sake of it, because I just put a bunch of my energy into cultivating something that was really just going to serve a visual purpose for me. And as I cared for the seedlings and carefully transplanted them and watered them, I thought a lot about the flower as a metaphor, how a plant only flowers if it has enough energy. If it's putting all of its energy into surviving, it's probably not going to flower. But if it has an abundance of energy, it can put that energy into a beautiful, delicate celebration of life. It says there's enough life here that some of it can be devoted to joy. And this led me to the understanding that beauty emerges when survival is no longer the priority. And people are like flowers. When we're in survival mode, almost all of our energy is going toward getting through the day. But when we heal, there's a little more space in our world, and we can begin to make things. We can cook beautiful meals. We can grow flowers. We can make music. We can paint. We can decorate our homes. When we heal and create space in our lives, we have the freedom to overflow with energy and find new ways and new reasons to celebrate being alive. So healing creates surplus energy. Surplus creates beauty, and beauty reminds us that life is more than survival and is worth celebrating. And that is why I paint. That's why I make art, because I believe that we need people in the world trying to solve the world's problems and reduce the suffering and pain, but we also need people who can add to the world's beauty and show people that even with the pain and the darkness, it's still worth celebrating being alive. And I don't know how to solve the world's problems, but I know that I can focus my attention on helping people heal and giving us more reasons to celebrate being alive.